Welcome back to Long COVID Doctor for all of those of you who are still suffering from long COVID. I'm Dr. Tim Robinson, formerly a family doctor, a GP for 30 years, and now working in Long COVID Services for 5 years. I post on all the usual podcast channels as well as on YouTube. I hope you find the postings helpful, and if you do, click subscribe and share them with anyone that you know who also has long COVID. Let's get the word out there. Okay. So, thanks for all the feedback you're sending in. I apologize that I just don't have the time to answer all your queries and comments, and so I do apologize for that, but I read them all the same and I appreciate them, and please keep them coming because they're actually quite helpful to me for my future postings. So another apology, and then it's my usual disclaimer, and it's important, of course. Any advice or treatment that I mention in these postings should only be considered after talking to your own doctor. So, this talk is all about sleep problems in long COVID, and I'll cover the symptoms and the causes of those sleep problems, and then I will go on to the treatments and strategies. What I've done is divided it into two parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 are the causes and the actual symptoms, what patients are telling us, and part 2 will be the strategies of how to deal with them. So here we go. Sleep problems in long COVID. They're common. Is the long and short of it. Sleep problems is, listed in the, if you like, what I call the top 10 symptoms of long COVID. And because they're common, it's therefore a frequently reported problem by our patients in the clinics, in the long COVID clinics. And because it's common and it has an impact on the well-being and it adds to the symptom burden for long COVID, it's important to look at and try and tackle. So, what are our patients telling us? Basically, it could be a number of things. Some patients find it very difficult to get to sleep. So straightforward insomnia. And so they find themselves just looking at their clock repeatedly, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, just not being able to get off to sleep. Classic insomnia. And then there's early morning wakening. So patients get off to sleep, no problems, and sleep for a couple of hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, but then wake in the early hours, 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning, or wake frequently through the night. So interrupted sleep. Some patients, or many patients with sleep problems, say they can get to sleep all right, stay asleep, sleep for 7, maybe 8 hours, hopefully, but wake up completely washed out, unrefreshed, as if they've not had any sleep, as if they've had a sleepless night. Some patients sleep well beyond that 7 and 8 hours, sleep 12, 14 hours I've heard of. And some patients, get halfway through the morning and say, I just can't go on. I've just got to go and have a sleep now, and then sleep for 2 and 3 hours in the daytime. It's not good because that can lead to a reversed sleep clock, and so you're sort of sleeping all day and then not sleeping at night. So that's a bit of a chaotic sleep pattern that you've sort of lapsed into without you knowing it, and a consequence of that, if you like, especially the insomnia group of patients who just can't get to sleep. They eventually get to sleep, but they just then sleep right through the whole morning, say. And so it gets to that point, as I say, the reversed sleep clock. Another problem in our patients is that they report vivid dreams, and often distressing dreams. And so they wake up feeling exhausted, having dreamt excessively, and they wake up feeling relieved that they've awoken again, because in a way they're escaping out of the dream. So those are all the common presentations of sleep problems in long COVID. Before we sort of get into the causes of sleep problems, I think it's important to cover what normal sleep is. What's a normal night's sleep? What do we all hopefully achieve with a normal night's sleep? Well, how long is a normal night's sleep? Well, it depends, and it sort of varies between one person and another. And so basically, it is said to be 7 and 8 hours is a sensible and a refreshing night's sleep. That's the duration in which actually you should be trying to be sleeping for to achieve all its massive functions, which I'll come on to in a minute. But a normal night's sleep ideally should be 7 or 8 hours. A normal night's sleep is interesting because it's not just going to sleep at and staying at that particular level, flat line right through until you wake up. No, through the night, you go through various levels and cycles throughout the night. And these cycles last about 90 minutes. And they vary between deep sleep and dream sleep, if you like. So deep sleep is followed by that dream sleep, and then follow the dream sleep. That's one cycle. And then the next cycle is starting all over again. Deep sleep and then dream sleep. So a sort of a wave pattern there that best sort of shows it on a sort of graph form of these cycles. As I say, those cycles are repeating through the night, and you have 4, 5, 6 cycles through the night. The dream sleep is otherwise known as REM sleep, so rapid eye movement. Rapid eye movement, why? Because during your dream sleep, you're asleep, but your eyes, you can see in someone who's in their REM phase, their eyes are flickering. And it's called rapid eye movement sleep. And that's when, like I said, dreams occur. In the deep sleep, that is referred to as non-REM. So typically what happens is that when you fall off to sleep, you fall into level 1 sleep, so N1 sleep. And then you become deeper asleep, if you like. You descend further into N2, level 2, and then N3, the deepest, slow wave sleep. Then you come out of that, go into 2, into 1, and then into rapid eye movement sleep. That's the first cycle. And then from rapid eye movement sleep, you start that descent into level 1, 2, 3 again, and then up into REM. So that's cycle 2. So, like I said, there are basically 4 to 6 of those cycles a night. And it's interesting, those cycles have a different function. So basically, REM is the sort of rapid eye movement sleep, is the dream sleep, is for emotional regulation and memory sort of integration. I'll talk about that in a minute more. And then non-REM is a sort of physical and brain restoration phase. That's when the physical and brain restoration takes place. That leads me on to sort of giving you a little bit more sort of background information as to why we need our sleep. What's the function of sleep? So basically, Sleep is an essential biological function because it brings about cellular repair of those cells in the body, in the brain, and throughout the whole body. The body is resting, and during that time, those cells that have become damaged or broken or tired during the daytime are then repaired during the sleep time. Then there's physiological restoration. So the breakdown products of metabolism that occur when we are using our cells, our bodies, in the daytime, those breakdown products of metabolism are cleared. That waste is cleared during the night whilst you're asleep. Along with that, there's energy restoration. So the energy currency, ATP, that is used up to undertake cellular processes, be it muscular or nerve impulses, during that time, you're using up all your ATP. And so we need to recharge the batteries. We need to build up those reserves again. And that's happening mostly at night. And then there's immune support. Again, the immune system, if you like, is having that clear out, etc. But also the immune system is, if you like, being rested and not encountering things that they've got to be defending against. And so the immune system has a chance to rebalance itself, recalibrate itself, and normalize. Besides all those sort of physical and cellular processes, sleep is really important. I talked about REM phase and the memory consolidation, as well as psychological health. So as the emotional experiences are processed during the REM, rapid eye movement, sleep, the dream sleep, those processes are so important. The laying down of memories. So those experiences that you've had in the daytime, things you've been doing in the daytime, are then, if you like, embedded from the short-term memory into the longer-term memory into the particularly the frontal cortex of the brain. And likewise, psychological health. So those emotional experiences through the day are processed and sort of put into their correct categories and pigeonholes and dealt with in a way that is important to bring about, if you like, emotional resilience. So, long and short of it is that sleep is, it's not just shutting your eyes, going to sleep and waking up in the daytime, feeling, that was a nice refreshing night's sleep, wasn't it? All those things have been taking place whilst we're asleep, which are so important for body, mind, brain, physical, etc. Okay, and then that leads us on to the sleep problems of long COVID. So what are the causes for those sleep problems that are going to cheat us of all those important biological functions of sleep? Well, sleep problems might come as a result of inactivity in the daytime. Because you're not so busy, because you've got your long COVID fatigue, you're not able to be so physically and mentally engaged and sort of being challenged with those everyday life things. You're not burning up the energy. You're not getting fatigued. You're not getting fatigued in that sleep-enhancing way. So it may be because of that daytime inactivity as a consequence of having long COVID. Another cause, and I've mentioned this in passing, and that was that the daytime nap. If you've overdone the daytime nap and slept for a couple of hours, then your sleep problem may come as a result of that sort of sleep reversal pattern that has come about as a result of all this. I.e., like I said, the sort of sleeping all day and being awake all night. It's that sleep pattern reversal. There may be actually non-long COVID factors causing or contributing or along with your long COVID sleep problems. Non-long COVID causes would be, say, excessive alcohol. It's common sense, isn't it? We know caffeine is a stimulant. Okay, so if you drink too much caffeine, you're going to have a sleep problem. You're not going to be able to get to sleep. It's common sense. Maybe to do with medications. Some medications do cause increased alertness, such as steroids, which are used for getting over acute asthma episodes, or indeed they've been used in long COVID or any other hyperinflammatory process. Not creams, I hasten to add, but steroid tablets. They can cause you to feel a bit wired and a bit sort of buzzy. You may have sleep problems because of an annoying pain you have as a result of osteoarthritis in the joints, in a joint. And so that can be what disturbs your normal sleep pattern. Another, of course, is the menopausal hot flushes that some unfortunate ladies have around about the menopausal time, around about the 50s, mid-40s to mid-50s, and that can cause sleep disruption. Heartburn, if you are unlucky enough to have a hiatus hernia or inflammation of your gullet and there's acid coming up from the stomach into the gullet, that can cause the sharp knife-like pain behind your sternum, heartburn, which is worse whilst you're horizontal, because when you're horizontal, the acid tends to, there's no gravity keeping it down in the stomach, so it tends to track back up the gullet into the esophagus. Another common cause, which we do come across a lot in sleep in our long COVID clinics, and that is obstructive sleep apnea. So excessive snoring, as well as gaps in your breathing whilst you are sound asleep. That's witnessed by a partner who shares your bed. And so they hear these big gaps in the breathing, followed by a sort of a big snort and a big gasp to get the breath in. Having obstructive sleep apnea leads to daytime sedation and sort of sleepiness, drowsiness. And finally, restless legs. Restless legs, it's not uncommon. In general practice, I sort of, probably saw 4 or 5 cases a year. Restless legs is not an uncommon problem. And, we can treat that with a number of medications now, which are very good at dealing with the restless legs. But if you've got restless legs, that really does lead to sleep disturbance. And then finally, we've got to remember the effects of long COVID on you, the individual. The fact that you've been unlucky to have COVID that has lasted and has become long COVID, and the impact of that on your life. And, the fact that it's really wrecked your life to various degrees. It's knocked your self-confidence, knocked your self-belief and self-esteem, but it's also had an effect on if you like, family dynamics at home, effect on on your social life. You've been robbed of your social life and your mates. You don't see your mates now. The effect on your job, which often and inevitably probably has an effect on your financial status, and worries about losing your home, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, all these natural occurring problems as a consequence of your wrecked life because of long COVID lead to worries and anxieties and mood disturbance and often indeed depression. And, anxiety and depression are classic causes of sleep problems. Besides all those, if you like, more either common sense or other illnesses or the effects of the long COVID on your life, there are obviously loads of long COVID causes, the actual underlying causes of long COVID that result in your sleep problems. So that excessive inflammation of long COVID and the immune dysregulation leads to those cytokines, those inflammatory mediators that then mess up the normal correct functioning of the neurological functioning within the brain, as I said, because of the excessive cytokines. And we know that this exists. We know that excessive microglial activity is demonstrated very clearly. And so they're pumping out these cytokines, which has a disruptive effect on your sleep pattern. Then there's the actual sleep centers themselves in the hypothalamus and the brain stem within the brain, in other words. They may have been damaged. So damaged by, microthrombi, the mini blood clots that we know is occurring in long COVID, and damaged by what we call synaptic pruning. So sort of the end of the nerve fibers are, if you like, eroded, as well as what we call the myelin sheath, that the myelin sheath that encases the nerve fibers and facilitates rapid nerve transmission, myelin production and maintenance is impaired and leads to demyelination. Top of all that, you've got small fiber neuropathy, which I cover in the brain fog update, which is, and it's also in the pins and needles update, and lots of examples of small fiber neuropathy around the body, which comes about as a result of the blood supply to those nerves is cut off and leads to sort of incorrect firing of those nerves. And finally, there's the abnormal vagus nerve signaling, where there can be excessive vagal nerve stimulation signaling from the body feeding into the brain. And then that contributes to the next big heading, and that is dysautonomia, which obviously we are very familiar with in long COVID, the excessive fight and flight, and the downregulated rest and digest, and accompanying symptoms of dysregulation that can also result in sleep problems such as temperature dysregulation, feeling excessively hot or excessively cold in bed at night can therefore lead to sleep problems. Likewise, tinnitus. So that ringing in the ears. I've done an update on that. You might like to listen to tinnitus in long COVID. But tinnitus at night, because there's no other external noises of everyday daytime activity, etc. So tinnitus is is very terribly annoying, let's say, for those patients who have it as part of their dysautonomia. And then there's the sort of disruption of the different parts of the brain that all link together. So there's the hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis. So that's going to cause a lowered cortisol, which has been detected in long COVID patients. Then you've got the disruption of the hypothalamo-pineal axis, i.e. the link between the hypothalamus and the pineal gland. I'll talk about this in a minute, but basically is where the body's natural, it is a hormone that has sleep enhancing properties. So it's our own natural sleep sedative, if you like. If the link between the hypothalamus and the pineal is interrupted, then you're going to have less melatonin, therefore less sleep enhancement. And then the limbic system. The limbic system is if you like, the emotional regulatory system, but it's also very important for short-term memory. So those areas are disrupted as well. And so remember, I said one of the functions of dream sleep, REM sleep, is emotional regulation and memory consolidation. So if the limbic system, there are lots of areas within the limbic system are affected by all those processes that are listed, that's going to cause sleep disturbance, sleep problems. So there we are. Those are the causes of sleep problems in long COVID. And that brings me to the close of my part 1 of this talk, the sleep problems in long COVID, in which I've talked about what patients are actually telling us in the clinics, the sleep problems they're experiencing and their causes. I'll come on to part 2, in which I will talk about how to tackle them, because that's really what you want to know. You want to overcome them. It's important to understand your causes, because understanding is key, knowledge is king. It's important to understand them, but it's, you really, at the end of the day, want to conquer those sleep problems. So I hope you join me there, and let's meet again soon, very soon. All the best.